What is a quote that permanently changed the way you look at things? Use what talents you possess. The woods would be very silent if no birds sang there except those that sang best. Henry Van Dyke. I like this a lot. It reminds me a lot of something my grandmother used to say, which is that all singing is good singing as long as you make a joyful noise. I miss her every day. There's a Buddhist quote, "Don't believe everything you think." Very much related to mindfulness and the idea that you are not what you think. Sometimes we have bad thoughts that we only think because we physically feel bad. That doesn't make us bad. Just observe and let the thoughts pass. People don't think about you as much as you imagine they do. Similarly, I've heard this as, don't worry about what others think of you because in most cases they don't. You'll worry less about what people think about you when you realize how seldom they do. David Foster Wallace. I used to have anxiety because I always worried over what people thought of me. Now I have depression because I realized nobody actually does. A ship in harbor is safe, but that is not what ships are built for. John Shedd. My best mate's favorite quote was, "Smooth seas never made a skilled sailor." A knight in shiny armor had never had his mettle tested. The first draft is just you telling yourself the story. Terry Pratchett. I'm not sure why this quote struck me so hard, but it completely changed the way I approach writing. Just get your ideas down and run on sentences and asides to yourself and loads of at parts you haven't figured out yet. It took me more than 30 years to realize that a first draft isn't just a rough version of the final draft. It's a map for yourself and no one else. We're all critics. We're all so good at recognizing what is shitty about something. But then we're all so bad at making something. So just make something bad and then criticize it until it's good. Dan Harmon. My favorite Terry Pratchett quote is, "Build a man a fire, and he'll be warm for a day. Set a man on fire, and he'll be warm for the rest of his life." This is fantastic advice for programming too. Get something down and working, and then refactor, rework, to get it into a presentable, maintainable state. Too often people try to get an elegant solution on the first try, and take forever to get something basic working. Edit. I want to specify that you should refactor before code review. This, just like a book, is meant to get you to a working solution faster, that you can then clean up before giving to others. Resentment is like taking poison and waiting for the other person to die. When seeking revenge, dig 2 graves. Confucius. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it is a quiet voice at the end of the day saying, "I will try again tomorrow." Marianne Radmacher. I came across this a long time ago, at a point in life that I really needed this lesson. It's okay if I feel sad and resigned. If my depression beat me for today and I wasn't able to function, I didn't fail. I'm not weak. I will try again tomorrow. Courage is not the towering oak that sees storms come and go. It is the fragile flower that blossoms in the snow. Dear Abidi's response to a writer thinking of going back to school but worried that she will be 40 by the time she got her degree. How old will you be in 4 years if you don't get your degree? You are going to be 40 anyway with or without your degree. It reminded me that letting age stop me from my plans was just silly. Also, working at a community college and seeing so many people going back to school in their 30s, 40s, 50s and thriving, the quote really spoke to me. When I became a man, I put away childish things, including the fear of childishness and the desire to be very grown up. C.S. Lewis. Since it is so likely that children will meet cruel enemies, let them at least have heard of brave knights and heroic courage. Otherwise you are making their destiny not brighter but darker. C.S. Lewis. Riffing on a classic G.K. Chesterton quote, "Fairy tales are more than true, not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten. The pain I feel now is the happiness I had before. That's the deal." C.S. Lewis. Oof. Gut punch. Grief is the loss of what we love. You might be the sweetest peach on the tree, but some people just aren't like peaches. This helped me get over my lifelong desire to be liked by everyone, and allowed me to focus on becoming someone I actually liked. There's not a lot of things worth caring about, told to me by a close friend, and it really helped me get over my insecurities and self-consciousness. Socializing is just like any skill. You need to practice before you're good at it. My mom, comforting me when I was struggling to make friends. Edit. Thanks for the awards. I assure you, next time I see my mom I'll tell her about your compliments. Graveyards are full of irreplaceable people. That quote helped me stop going down the path of working myself to death because my job needs me. That mountain you've been carrying, you were only supposed to climb, really helped me overcome a lot of traumatic experiences and difficult chapters in my life. I hope it helps someone else out there. The axe forgets, the tree remembers. Zimbabwean proverb. People don't forget how they were treated. That's why it's so important to be kind. Edited to add, I honestly did not expect this to blow up. Thanks y'all. I saw this one time under a post about parenting and it stuck with me. As a mother of 2 stubborn toddlers, some days are rough and filled with thin patience and frustration. I use this quote to remind myself that how I am with them will be what helps to shape them. My husband and I set the example for them, and both of us had crappy childhoods. I don't want them traumatized like I was as a child. I want them to be molded with love, not negativity. It's possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. That is not weakness. That is life. Captain Jean-Luc Picard. The opposite is true as well. You can make all the mistakes and still win. 7 billion people. Someone's rolling all nat. 20s. You can't blame a blind person for being blind. You just don't let them drive your car. Honey, I hope it's the worst thing that ever happens to you. From my dad when I was complaining about something. He probably didn't intend for it to be deep or anything, but it puts things in perspective. I think of it all the time. Sometimes I have to tell myself, if that's the worst thing that happens to me all day, it will be a pretty good day. I visited Pearl Harbor this week and the one that struck me was, there were many acts of heroism that day, not all of them recorded. It reminds me that even when nobody is watching, it's still important to put forward your best. Character is what you do when no one is looking. Just because you lost me as a friend doesn't mean you gained me as an enemy. I still want to see you eat, just not at my table. And now that you don't have to be perfect, you can be good. John Steinbeck, East of Eden. I've had a lot of worries in my life, most of which never happened. Mark Twain. Founded on a workbook for anxiety disorders. My therapist once told me that living in the future is anxiety. Living in the past is depression. Only good way is to live in the present moment. Good luck. Ha. I wish it need not have happened in my time, said Frodo. So do I, said Gandalf. And so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us. Many that live deserve death, and some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them? Then do not be too eager to deal out death in judgment. I will not say do not weep, for not all tears are an evil. Saruman believes it is only great power that can hold evil in check. But that is not what I have found. I found it is the small everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keep the darkness at bay. Small acts of kindness and love. This morphed into my personal life philosophy of, don't be a dickhead. Similar to this, I really like Thomas Paine in The American Crisis. If there must be trouble, let it be in my day, that my child may have peace. Your kid isn't giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time. The only way out is through. Long time ago I was meeting two women on the sidewalk, and just as we passed each other I heard this one sentence from one of them. You don't notice your progress in life because you are always raising the bar. End of BoJack Season 2, it gets easier. Every day it gets easier. But you gotta do it every day. That's the hard part. Also from BoJack, when you look at someone through rose-colored glasses, all the red flags just look like flags. A lot of really good relationship quotes in that show that make me so sad. What happened? The same thing that always happens. You didn't know me. You fell in love with me. And now you know me. The show is so full of amazing writing. My favorite is from Cuddly Whiskers. I'm happy for the first time in my life and I'm not going to feel bad about it. It takes a long time to realize how truly miserable you are. And even longer to see that it doesn't have to be that way. Only after you give up everything can you begin to find a way to be happy. I don't know the quote exactly, but I really liked. But hey, life sucks and then you die. Well, sometimes life sucks and you just keep living. My favorite BoJack quote goes something like, here's the trick to being happy. Just pretend you are happy. And eventually you'll forget you're pretending.